Hey, what's up, guys? We have Dave from Echoplex Media here. He is back again from last time we were talking about the intellectual dark web. So, how's it going, Dave? How you doing?
Good. I guess that makes me the returning champion.
Correct. I haven't had too many return guests, um, but yeah, we're just gonna pick up where we started off. But yeah, if you could go over yourself and who you are again, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, I cover in a sometimes journalistic way, sometimes trollish way, online influence campaigns, the broader dystopia beat, and our most popular podcast is called The Intellectual Dollar Tree, and it's about the IDW and the we'll call them the I guess the orbiting assholes, as I call them, because not everybody took the picture in front of the plant, right? But you can find our stuff on at echoplexmedia.com, and all of our merch is at eplex.store. Big shout out to Fourth Wall for making all that happen for us.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we'll get into. I guess we'll just get into later where we can like find you exactly. But yeah, I think that I looked for that picture last time, and I don't know if I was able to find that picture in front of the plant. I mean, I know it's out there, but I think we were talking about last time who exactly would be in the intellectual dark web. Um, but it's kind of like, are they even still considered that at this point? Like, do they kind of? It seems like it's kind of fallen out, right?
Well, it's just sort of like permeated like YouTube culture in a lot of ways. I think that that sort of the sort of idea that um like the people basically, instead of, if they want to find out what's true about the world, right, that people have, instead of figuring out what the consensus among like domain experts are, that they just go find their favorite they're basically influencers, right? But they pretend to be, they're influencers, but they're like men, so men don't like that word so much. Public intellectuals will say, they go find their favorite public intellectual and decide that's where the truth lies, versus like actually taking a look and seeing what the state of the art is, or whatever, in any like given like area of interest. And I
Yeah,
think that that's not just like the Weinsteins and Sam Harris and whoever else stood in front of the plant and took that awkward picture.
yeah. Yeah, for whatever reason, like right now, I'm on the main. Like normally when I do it, like your face will come up and then my face will come up, whoever's talking. But now, like it's just me, and your
Oh,
face is like a small corner. Do you know
yeah.
if we're able to fix that so it kind of like will show your face bigger?
I don't really use Zoom except to like go on other people's shows, essentially, or to like if I have to talk to a
Okay.
client that insists on using Zoom.
I don't know if I'm gonna be able to fix that, so it's just probably gonna be like my face with your face in the corner the whole time, I guess.
Well,
Which is
that's
kind
okay.
of weird. It's kind of weird because it like almost feels like I'm like talking to myself or something. But yeah, so I guess with what's going on recently, what are some of the things that's been going on recently that you might want to cover? I mean, there's obviously the Elon Musk stuff with Trump. He's like seemed to be taking over the White House. The Nazi salute that he did. Um, is there anything else you like that's kind of current that we could talk about?
I don't talk a lot about that particular stuff. I feel like that space is like pretty saturated. I mean, I'm aware of it, right? You can't not be. Um, right now, I guess I'm I'm still just mostly interested in the ways in which these characters, um, they're not all the same characters. We keep adding new ones and whatnot, but I've been just interested in the way that these characters sort of influence society in a way that I find to be rather unhelpful, and like it just kind of again drives people away from like expert consensus and more toward like almost like internet dads as like the place to get information. And that's been sort of like where what I'm interested in here, because that's never going to change it. I mean, no matter who the president is or what apartheid Clyde is doing, or whatever, this group of people, it's going to ebb and it's going to flow. There's going to be different people doing it, but there's always going to be these sort of internet dads that are there to give people the answers. And it's kind of like the It's like the thing that's going to have staying power, and it's sort of a thing that's always existed on YouTube. Before these intellectual dark web people, there were like the men's rights activists and like the gamer gators who were doing that, and it's just always like it seems like a lot of now that I'm getting older, everybody's a young man, right? But like a lot of young men just want answers about the world. And the problem is that the world is like a complicated place and the answer is not always clear. And sometimes to find the real answer to a question, you have to accept some ambiguity and understand that not everybody in a domain, not all the domain experts are going to agree on everything all the time. Whereas if you just get one of these internet dads, they're just going to tell you what's true and you're just going to believe them. And I think that that's like an interesting phenomenon. And I think that that's like always been big on YouTube, and there's always been, the fertile ground in the YouTube community for these grifters to do this.
Yeah, I think there's something about um the science and like what's true, or whatever we know to be, or at least what we know to the best of our knowledge to be true. And there's always this kind of fascination with conspiracy theories, in the sense that it's like, like, I think people kind of get bored of the truth, and they're like they go looking for other answers, like, like the Matrix type stuff, and it's like what's really going on isn't what's really going on. So they look for these types of people. That's why people will, buy into any types of cults or religions or any type of crazy thinking, is like they don't just want to like believe what's normal. You know what I mean? Like they want to try and find something that's like different than what everybody else thinks, and crazy and unusual, right?
And if people want to find conspiracies, man, I for something I'm working on right now, I've been looking into COINTELPRO and Operation Midnight Climax and MK Ultra for like a piece I'm writing. And so if people want to find conspiracy, boy howdy, they don't have to look very far to find real conspiracy. We had the Tuskegee experiments. I mean, there are just all kinds of stuff people could dig into. But again, these are things where like journalists and mostly journalists uncovered all of this through the hard work and just keep banging on the sources and just keep trying to like prove everything that they're publishing. And like you said, that is kind of boring, right? Because there's no magic there, right? That's how the sausage is made in good journalism. Is you just got to keep banging away at something until you can prove it, and then when you prove it, you publish. And then the problem is, like, when you publish something, you can only really, like, if you're an ethical person, you can only really publish what you can prove. So there's all kind of stuff that maybe they think is true or whatever, but they were unable to prove to whatever certainty that either they or their organization thought was appropriate to publish. And so it's just not as sexy as some person like with just a little tiny bit of evidence going off that and like wildly speculating and telling you that they have the answer and that everybody else is a sheep and shit. It's like not like that's way sexier, but it's also like it's a great way to just get it wrong.
Yeah. Do you buy, or have you heard of, or do you buy into like the I think the book was called Chaos. It was like how like Charles Manson was like part of the whole what do they call that? Like the government like gave people LSD to like fuck them up or
Oh,
whatever.
was
Like,
he that's no, that's one of those things where I don't know. I mean, I've looked into that. He was the MK Ultra, right? They were saying that
yeah.
he had been subject to the MK Ultra experiments. The problem with that is, the fact that that MK Ultra was happening was uncovered, but nobody ever found like the details of like it was illegal, right? So like there's this like I like referring back. There's this scene in The Wire where there's they're having a meeting, like the drug dealers and the head honcho Stringer Bell is talking to people, and somebody in the corner is taking notes, and Stringer Bell goes up to the guy, grabs the notes from him, and goes, "What the fuck are you doing taking notes about a criminal conspiracy for?" And I feel like a lot of people think that there's like, maybe for MK Ultra or whatever, that there were people taking like extensive notes on the names and addresses and everything of everybody that they abused during that. Hell no, they weren't doing that. Like, why would they? Like, that's stupid. Like, what are these people? They were doing this horrible stuff and subjecting people to these experiments. But I don't think all these people were dumb as fuck. You'd have to be dumb as fuck to take notes on your criminal conspiracy and then just leave them laying around.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I find it hard to believe. Supposedly the MK Ultra is true. Like Wasn't
Oh,
didn't
it
they say?
is.
Yeah, didn't they say that Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber, was part of it or something too?
Dude, that's where I have to jump off because
Yeah,
we can't prove that, right? And it's true insofar as the program, we know the program existed. It doesn't mean that we know everything that happened in the program. That's a different thing. And I don't, and even the people who are doing it don't know everything that happened, because if you think about it, do you remember what you had for lunch last Tuesday? Like, people are going to forget all kind of stuff. So, like,
yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't buy into it. I tend to like not buy into conspiracy theories until they're proven or until somebody has done the research. But I mean, Charles Manson to me just seems like crazy, but who knows? I've also heard recently that Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber, people think that he might have been like the Zodiac killer too. Have you heard that one?
I heard that.
You haven't heard that one?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it. I'm like, that's not even my lane, right? Like, I'm
Yeah,
more, but I just kind of laughed at it. I'm like, man, this busy motherfucker, isn't he?
yeah,
This
exactly.
guy's doing all kind of bad shit.
Some guy actually brought it up to me on this podcast. He was like a book publisher, and somebody had in one of his writers had written a book about it. And I'm like, yeah, I don't really know if I believe that, but he's like, there's a lot of truth to it. But yeah, like you said, he would have to be one busy motherfucker, and it seems like his strategy for killing people was way different between the two. Like one was
Yeah,
bombing people from afar, one was killing them like straight up.
and a
Like
lot of the Zodiac stuff happened in like a city, and so far as I know, Ted Kaczynski was no fan of the city, so he didn't
he
spend a lot of time in like urban areas.
yeah, supposedly he was over in that area during that time, but that it's hard to believe.
Well,
But
what do you mean? Like, that area do you mean like the Pacific Northwest? Like, what do you mean that area? Like, are you the Northern Hemisphere? Like,
yeah, I don't. Well, I don't know the answers, but I know that he went to. I want to say that he went to some school over in that area or something, or I don't even. I'm not sure. He was. I mean, I don't believe it, so I can't justify it.
yeah,
But anyways, let's get more into like the stuff that like the I guess the intellectual dark web, I guess you would call it the manosphere type stuff. Like, so what about like somebody like Andrew Tate? Like, is he part of this group that you cover or?
I mean, I think that for a lot of them, for a lot of like the Eric Weinstein, Brett Weinstein, Sam Harris, even maybe Douglas Murray, for all those people, I think Andrew Tate's maybe they would say he's a little too uncouth for them, right? Like, they're trying to like pretend they're like lying to you, but they got a pocket watch, right? And Andrew Tate doesn't have a pocket watch. So I think that he's like the manosphere, definitely. But the problem is that that's not as, the manosphere isn't as like tightly knit as it maybe was 10 years ago. That's just also sort of spread its way throughout society, where you have all these sort of influencers now. I think that, like, those guys that are like, uh, eat raw meat and raw eggs and don't eat any broccoli, and all those guys are, I think that wouldn't happen without the manosphere. So I think it's like sort of spread more thinly across, and it's not so obvious. But yeah, Andrew Tate is like obviously like a manosphere guy. He's incredibly misogynistic, like, and that's his brand, and he tells young men that that's the way to be too. I mean, that's the distillation of the manosphere, right?
Yeah. And I don't know if you've seen the most recent thing with him where like he's tried to come into Florida, but then it's like DeSantis doesn't even want him there. It's it's bad when DeSantis doesn't want you there. And
They had the opportunity to do the funniest thing, right? They could have extradited him back to the UK, wherever he was facing charges, right? They could have done the funniest thing, but they didn't do it. Ah, that would have been funny.
yeah, so he actually facing charges in the UK, not Romania?
I think possibly both. Again, I'll cop to not having followed Andrew Tate like super
Yeah.
closely.
Yeah, I'd honestly rather just really honestly stick to the people you do follow. But just a couple other people that I want to see if you what you think of and if you've been into is have you seen like Patrick Bet David stuff?
Yeah, yeah,
What,
that
what do you
guy.
what do you think of him?
Man, we watched him once on the Intellectual Dollar Tree, and then I'm just like, I'm never watching this guy again. I hate this guy. I like hate him
Yeah,
too much. I don't know. It's like it's not like that's not like a proper critique of what he's doing, but I like got just such bad, gross vibes off of him that I'm not even
yeah,
going to engage with the content enough to have like a proper critique of him. He's just such a he just seems like the first thing I saw him, and I don't think they do it anymore, but he was either on someone else's show or he was doing it on his show, or what they I think he was on someone else's show. It was one of those shows where they bring on they have like, men his age, and they bring on like 19-year-old influencers to kind of call them whores and shit. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. Those kind of shows. That's the first my
Yeah.
and it was like, dude, this girl's like fucking 19. Leave her alone. Like, you're fucking creepers. What are you fucking doing?
The fact that he would go on one of the, yeah, he's what, in his 50s, probably,
Yeah.
right? And
And
he's
the other
going on,
guys that are hosting those kind of shows are in their 40s. I mean,
are they, the one that I'm thinking of is, might not be the one you're talking about, but it's like Fresh and Fit or something. Have you heard of Fresh and Fit?
yeah, I haven't seen enough of it to like clock those guys' age, but I don't. Those guys can't be any younger than 35, right?
See, I was, to me, they look young. They could be, who knows? But um, it's like the two black guys, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So with those guys, I don't know how those guys have gotten so popular because, and what I've seen from them is exactly what you're talking about, where they'll have like a table full of like young girls who are like pretty, and they'll just, yeah, they'll bring people on to kind of like, I guess, like call out the girls or whatever. But it's like, how are the girls like agreeing? I mean, it's a good idea for a show in a weird way because it's gonna get clicks. But like, how are the girls even like agreeing to come on? I don't know if they're paying them or if like they just want like attention. But why are the girls even going on in the first place? You know what I mean? It's
I
like, this
mean,
seems,
they're taking advantage like this. They're taking advantage of young people who want to get into entertainment, but probably don't have an agent. And
yeah,
like, because if an agent would tell them, don't go on that show. You know,
yeah,
they're just taking advantage of people who, maybe, it is perfectly reasonable to, whether you're trying to do it because you're a pretty young woman or you think you're a smart guy or whatever it might be, it is perfectly reasonable to try to make a living doing content, creating content, whatever. And I think that those shows, they just find, these, your brain isn't done developing until you're about 25, 26 years old. So they find people who are just, their brains are still developing and they're still learning about the world, and they just have them on to dunk on them. And I'm just like, well, I don't know. I stopped bullying people when I was a kid, but you do you, I guess.
yeah. I can't believe that. Is that the show that Patrick Bet David went on that you're talking about?
I don't know if it was Fresh and Fit, because there were several shows that were like that. And then I think YouTube kicked all of them off.
Yeah. Oh, did they? Did YouTube actually kick off Fresh and Fit?
I believe so. I think they purged all of those shows.
Are they on like a different one now? Are they
I
on?
I definitely did not follow Fresh and Fit. I definitely don't know where they're at. I assume they're probably on Rumble, but I don't
Yeah.
know.
It seems like from what I've heard, Twitch is actually. I mean, I'm only saying this because I know people have gotten kicked off of Twitch, but Twitch is actually seems to be more strict, I guess. Because I mean,
Very, very strict. So, and this is just my take. They're pretty strict on the payload, but they're not so strict on tone, right? Like, if you're kind of being snot, basically, if you were harassing somebody on your show, you'd get kicked off of Twitch, right? But if you're just making fun of your co-host, or stuff like, or like the stuff I cover, fairly controversial stuff. And I'm kind of, I make fun of a lot of people and whatnot, but I think that they're pretty good about, you know not going after people just for covering something the wrong way. But yeah, they're really strict. The good thing about Twitch, though, is you can get a hold of a person at Twitch. That's been my experience. So when I've ever thought I was maybe flying a little close to the sun, I if I'm willing to wait, I can get a hold of somebody and ask them about content that I might be thinking about doing, and I can get real actionable information from someone. And so that's
yeah.
pretty good.
And are
But
you
yeah, they are
monetized
strict, and
on there?
I think the reason that they're strict is I think a lot of kids watch Twitch. There's a lot of adults that watch Twitch, but I think a lot of kids watch Twitch because there's like a big Roblox scene on there, big like Minecraft scene on there, and like they tell you that you have to be 13 or over to have a Twitch account, but that doesn't stop a 10-year-old from making a Twitch account to watch a Roblox stream.
Yeah. Well, even 13 is like pretty young, pretty
Yeah,
young. It's like, I mean, the fact that they don't enforce that more on these places is crazy to me. Like, I mean, I think it almost seems like anybody can get on Instagram or YouTube or any of these things and go crazy, you know. But
Yeah, like the way I think about it is like my content is not for children, but I would like to think that a parent wouldn't be horrified if their 13-year-old or whatever found my channel. They would just explain, hopefully, that this is not a channel for kids, right?
yeah, yeah. I mean, the main issue with YouTube is that, like what you're saying, it's hard to get a hold of anybody, and nobody really knows like what the rules are. You know what I mean? It's like it's kind of like fuck around and find out type system where everybody's just posting shit and like ripping content, and like you see everybody else ripping content, so then you think, oh, I can do that and react to it. And technically you can, right? Because of like fair use, as long if you show somebody else's
Fair
video.
use is for fair use only applies if you have attorneys, right?
But I mean, you're doing it like you said. You're playing other people's videos, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, I mean, I'm actually dealing with that right now. I don't really want to go into it, but I'm dealing because my channel does a little bit of that. So, but it's impossible to ever really get the exact answer on what you can and cannot do. And like you just said, you need an attorney. So, how are you doing it to make it quote unquote legal, or getting away with it or
Um,
whatever?
so first of all, I think a lot of the sort of people that we cover are fringe enough outside of the intellectual dark web people, like the other stuff that I do. A lot of the people are fringe enough that they are not going to even be inclined to try to copyright claim me. Like on our other shows, I find a lot of stuff on the alt tubes, a lot of the crazier stuff we watch. Then on like our news show, the as long as you're just running clips, like the news outlets, like local news outlets or even CNN and Fox, they don't go after you for running a clip of their newscast and then making commentary on it. It actually turns out that there's very few people who are assholey enough that if you're doing, that if you're talking about their content and using their content to demonstrate what you're talking about, that they'll file copyright claims on you. I've found that there have been very few people that do that, which is, you know, probably pretty good.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm dealing with one right now. I don't really want to go too far into it because I actually literally did before with a lawyer, and then I ended up just cutting it out because I didn't really want it to be up there. But yeah, I'm dealing with it right now. Right, I used like a video that I talked over it, and YouTube said that's fine as long as you're talking over the video. And then I got hit. But
Yeah,
so it's
I
this type.
I had I'm going back and forth with this Jubilee organization about something like that right now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So my
yeah.
my main deal, I don't really want to go too far into it because it'll take up time. But like, the main reason I bring it up is just because it's such a shit show in terms of what we were saying, what you can and cannot do on there. And a lot of times, I think for a lot of people, they don't really know that they can't do it until you know what I mean? There's no very obvious thing that says you cannot do this, or you know what I mean? Or, so people just go up there and have a field day. And then it's like, but anyways, so yeah, like I'm gonna try and cover a bunch of people real fast because we only have so much time. Um, and I just want to see like what your thoughts on all of them are, I guess. So what about oh yeah, I brought up PBD, Patrick Bet David. He just like he had it was actually from 2 years ago, but he had Neil deGrasse Tyson on it. And I actually like Neil deGrasse Tyson because like he'll go on these shows and like get mad and like argue with these people,
Yeah, I know that's funny.
And so they brought up COVID to him. I just watched this one little, I'm listening to the whole thing now, but I just watched this one little clip first. And they brought up COVID and they're like, what do you think about the vaccine not being tested? And he's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like the vaccine was tested. Like for some reason, those people just like to like put a blanket statement over like the vaccine just wasn't tested at all. And it's like,
Yeah,
no, it was.
and I think they, if they have Neil deGrasse Tyson on, I think they have him on because they think they're going to get the better of him because like it's going to take somebody like him a little bit longer to explain what's really going on than his opponent who's just going to make this bold declarative statement like this vaccine was untested, it was experimental. It takes you know you could say something false in fucking 5 seconds and to for someone else to explain why it's false It takes more than 5 seconds, that's for sure. So they're hoping, I suppose, that they have somebody like him on and that he'll like stumble and like have a hard time, recalling the information about the thing, the maybe the wide variety of claims that they're making. It's the tactic called the Gish Gallop. I'm sure you're familiar with it, but for your audience, if you've never heard of it, it's just this tactic where you just make rapid fire claims when you're having a debate with somebody. You make, maybe 10 claims in 3 minutes, and your opponent, if they maybe have equal time to you, they have 3 minutes. Well, they're only going to be able to swat down one or two of those claims if they're lucky in the 3 minute time. And so the other 8 claims remain like unaddressed, and it to an audience who doesn't know what's going on, maybe it feels like the person who made all the claims was right because the other person only was able to swat down two of the 10 or whatever. So that's sort of
Yeah,
what they do to people like Neil deGrasse Tyson. Now he's pretty good at that,
he
because he'll
is
just
good at
grab
it. Yeah,
one claim and bury down on it.
yeah. And I mean, not only that, but like he gets mad, and some people like you can tell he's getting intense or mad or whatever, and some people might take that as like, oh, he's getting like triggered or something. But it's like, I, and almost like I feel like you almost have to be like that with these people because it's like
Right.
to get the point across, you can't just go in there and be like soft spoken and like this.
And
You almost have to be like, no, like you're fucking wrong. Like this is how it is. You know what I mean? And like lay it out
and
for
it's
him.
not like these people are never mean to other people. You know what I'm
Oh yeah,
saying?
yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, the Patrick Bet David crew definitely does a good job at coming off nice. But like you're saying, I think their intention is to try and catch people off guard, even though they're coming off like quote unquote polite. They're really trying to like kind of catch people, get people, call people out on shit. But
Right. But it's in, it just depends who's on there. Like, the other one they had on who did a really good job was Sam Cedar, did a really good job on the Patrick Bet David show. So
yeah, well, another thing too is like what you're saying. You kind of, in order to get the full context of everything, and this goes for both sides, you almost kind of have to watch or listen at least to the whole thing. But if you just watch the one little clip, it could make that person look dumb or whatever. But like you got to watch and listen to the whole thing. But so some other people like what about well, have you heard of Red Bar by any chance? Red Bar Radio?
I see them coming up on my Reddit feed, but that's it. I haven't looked into it.
I mean, this guy goes absolutely crazy. I got into him about probably like around a year ago, and he just goes after these people in a way that's like unbelievable. Like it's so funny and so good, and it's blowing up. I mean, he goes after a lot of the same people that were mainly the Joe Rogan kind of. It's more like comedians that he's going after, but
Right.
you'll see the Jordan Peterson type people. So I definitely recommend him for you to check out. But he goes after like people like H3. Like, do you watch H3 at all, or
I I know he's like YouTube famous and was like one of the original like YouTube talk show hosts, but I can't say that I know that much more about Ethan Klein. Famously there was that time that he tricked Steven Crowder into almost talking to Sam Cedar, and that's it.
oh yeah, which in my opinion that almost was kind of lame. I mean, it's like I get the joke of it, I get the troll, but it's like yeah, like you're making it all so obvious that like you can't debate him. Like you bring someone else on the show to
Well,
debate him.
well, it's because I mean, I don't like Ethan Klein that much, but I'm just going to say that he is not out there saying that he was not out there making strong claims about the facts of the matter or whatever. Like he was like, I'm a silly talk show host. He's like, I'm not an expert on this stuff, and he's like, you
Yeah.
know, he's like, and you've been ducking this guy for a long time. I don't know if you know the story behind that. At Politicon one year, Sam Cedar was supposed to talk to Steven Crowder, and word on the street is that Steven Crowder's dad told Steven he couldn't do it. And so grown ass man and your dad said don't do this.
Yeah, I've heard that like Steven Crowder's dad gets involved with the show. So what about like guys like Destiny or Hassan Piker? Do you follow them at all?
Stephen Bonnell is in the process of tanking his career right now over some personal shit that he's doing that he shouldn't be doing, as far as I can tell.
Some
um
sexual some
it's like
sexual
some
videos type stuff,
like
right?
allegedly like sending people videos of him having sex with other people where the person he was having sex with didn't consent to that video being sent to who it was being sent to and stuff like that. This is all allegations. We don't know. I just watched something about it, so I don't really keep up on Steve Bonnell. Maybe when I first started streaming, I was sort of watching, but not for anything other than to like sort of look how his overlays were and how like everything sort of looked and felt on his channel, because he was popular and doing like some version. Mind you, I don't game, but he was popular on Twitch at the time and doing some version of what I was doing. But I I don't know. I always thought that he was, I think that he is willing to take a lot of unnecessary risks, considering that this is his profession. I guess that's what I'll say. And like Hassan, uh, he's another like I try not to watch a lot of people who are like doing some version of what I'm doing, and Hassan is doing some version of what I'm doing, and I don't want to be accidentally like just using accidentally like repeating someone else. Like I used to listen to Majority Report every day. I don't listen to Majority Report anymore. Not because I don't like them or whatever, but because I just don't want to be regurgitating their like takes on things without knowing that that's what I'm doing, because I've been, I'm listening to 3 hours of it a day or whatever. So I don't listen to like a lot of commentators like that are in my space, I suppose, that are doing something similar to what I'm doing.
Yeah. I mean, what do you think it is about some of these guys like Hassan or H3 or Destiny that have made them rise to the top? Like, do you think they're particularly good at what they're doing, or do you think it's just kind of like
Um,
the fact that they've been doing it for so long?
that's a combination of factors. I think, yeah, I can't speculate because they were all definitely in the space before I was, and they're all definitely doing something very different than what I'm doing. So I don't, I think like, yeah, they're not. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why they got popular. I mean, Hassan, I think a lot of it came from he was able to springboard off of the Young Turks. But
Yeah.
that isn't all of it, honest, obviously, because he's bigger now than the TYT is. So yeah, that I don't know.
Yeah.
I couldn't say. I think
I mean, I
Destiny was just one of the first. Honestly, he was back doing this back when Twitch was called Justin TV. So that might be one of the reasons that he's. And Ethan Klein was also probably maybe one of the first YouTube, like real YouTube talk shows.
yeah, I think that's a big part of it. Was how like when you started, but I mean, like I just watched a video or a YouTube. I randomly found like a YouTube video. It was like this younger kid doing reaction videos, and he was literally just reacting to TikToks or whatever else, and he had millions of views. And it's like, I don't personally think this would be too hard if you're ballsy enough just to like not even ballsy enough, but like just go up there and like react to shit that's popular. It almost seems like it's like it wouldn't be that difficult. It could be more difficult than I think that it is, but like when I'm watching the videos, I'm like, this doesn't seem like it would be that difficult to just
So
react to videos, you know?
yeah, I mean, I think that, maybe for younger people, it's easier to like get popular. I think there's a couple things, I think, like if people are getting popular, probably, they probably are fairly, good looking or whatever. I think there's a lot of like factors that go into how people get popular, especially like in more mainstream, like what you're talking about, like reacting to TikTok videos is definitely like more mainstream, right? Than, than like these, the internet dads are like a niche, right? But like everybody's watching, people reacting to dumb TikTok videos. I think not everybody, but it's like a bigger, like it's a bigger pool of viewers.
Yeah. So okay. So what about Andrew Callahan? Have you watched his show at all? Channel Five.
I have no idea who that is. Who's Andrew Callahan?
So and I mean he's really big. Like there's a potential that not even so much him, but his Channel Five show YouTube. He's the guy who he'll go to like these crazy events, like whether it be QAnon or
Oh, Channel 5.
whatever.
Okay, okay, okay. Yeah, yeah,
It
yeah. I know what
used to be
channel.
all
Yeah.
it used to be all gas no brakes, and he'll just go and like hold the mic to the person and they just like let them talk, and they'll just like
Yeah,
go
okay, I
off.
know what you're talking about now. Yeah.
Yeah, in my opinion, he's probably doing like the best like actual kind of boots on the ground journalism because he really does a good job at like not really being biased in any way. He just kind of goes and shows what's happening. What do you think about him?
I've only seen just a few of the videos. Probably the during QAnon or during like the height of QAnon, I probably saw some of it, but I can't say that I like watch a lot of it. Honestly, if I'm watching YouTube, like if I'm, if my show's over or if I'm off or whatever, and I'm not like watching old TV shows and instead I'm watching YouTube, my YouTube feed, like on my TV, is a completely different account than the ones that I use for like research in my shows. And it's like, it's not the, this stuff. I am, I, that's what it's work. I don't want to work while I'm watching TV. So something like that again would be something. If I was casually watching YouTube, I would probably just tend to skip it just because it's too much like work. So,
Yeah. I mean, do you feel like Twitch or any of the other ones, or which one do you think is the actual best one for like good content? Any
um,
really any video streaming service, any video app.
I
I
mean,
don't even know what you'd call that, but
if you're looking to watch live stuff, Twitch is where it's at. But not everybody wants to watch live stuff. I don't know. YouTube has the most stuff. I mean, that's what I watch generally. I mean, well, I have a Jellyfin server that I have stuff on that I just watch, but that's like old stuff that like I think I'm about to rewatch Burn Notice. So, um,
what's Jellyfin server?
oh, it's a Jellyfin. It's like it's it just allows you to store media on a computer and then watch it anywhere, essentially.
Okay. Yeah, so the problem that I have with when I have tried out Twitch is it doesn't seem super user friendly. I mean, it could just be because of me and my age and just not being used to it yet, but it's like when I have gone on, I haven't really liked like the user interface that much. It hasn't been as easy to like go through. Like I'm not able to find what I want as easily as YouTube. But like I said, it's probably just because I'm on YouTube more. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, we, we when we started on Twitch, we were able to get people were able to find us specifically because we were able to tell our podcast listeners, right? We'd already had a podcast. We already had several podcasts by the time we hit we hit Twitch. So we were able to just drive people there that way. And we already had like a social media presence. And so people were finding us like directly via links at first until we started we started meeting other streamers and people from other channels started hearing about us, and then like now people are more likely to discover our Twitch channel maybe from you know sometimes even the Twitch homepage, but they're more likely to discover from within Twitch than from outside of Twitch. But definitely at the beginning, we weren't. None of our discovery was happening from within Twitch. We had to bring people over from our other platforms, other social media, other stuff we were doing. So
Yeah,
I understand, and like a lot of people when they first got there, they didn't know what was going on, and we tried to get like during COVID, there was a we worked on a we were working with some promoters doing an online concert, and everybody was like super like not into the idea of using Twitch for it, even though like that was the best platform for it. And yeah, it's not super easily it's not super easy to discover stuff, and it's so much driven by who's live right now. And it's they're not even really suggesting to you that you find my stream from 2 days ago and watch it, right? You have to go looking for that, and that's fine.
yeah, yeah. I mean, like I said, it's probably more just for the fact that I'm on YouTube, Instagram, and whatever else. So like when I go over there, I'm like, man, it's gonna take some time to even find what I want or figure it out. Unless there's like something that's like only on Twitch that I want to go watch. But yeah, so as far as the intellectual, bringing it back to the intellectual dark web, which is what I really actually kind of wanted to talk about. Um, yeah. So what's going on with them recently? I guess like any of those guys. I haven't. I mean, I still. I mean, I obviously follow them, but I don't really know too much about. It seems like they've almost kind of, like I said, been fading out a little bit. Like, I haven't seen Eric Weinstein too much. I haven't seen. I mean, I know Brett Weinstein too much. I actually do listen to Sam Harris's podcast from time to time. But yeah, what's new with them?
So like I said, I think it's like I think it like had its moment, and then it became it started to more permeate our culture. And now like now we live in like a podcast bro culture essentially. Like the podcast bros are like affecting like a real politique, you know, like they're affecting the world in ways that maybe when the IDW was sort of branded that way, that it wasn't, right? That they were this sort of niche group of, I don't know, I'd call them whiners who like wanted to run their mouths and didn't want anybody talking back to them. And now like some of those people have real like power in our society. So I think that that it's sort of run its course, for example, lately, I've been trying to, like, I have the show tonight actually, and I'm not sure what I'm doing on the show tonight, the Intellectual Dollar Tree. But like recently we've done Curtis Yarvin. I don't know if you know about Curtis Yarvin. He is one of these dark enlightenment people, and he like is
I just heard his. I don't even remember where I heard his name from, but I like just heard his name recently. But I don't know much about him at all.
yeah,
No.
he's like, we've been looking into him because he's like influential in like that sort of Peter Thiel, Mark Andreessen, JD Vance sort
Yeah.
of circle. He's
Yeah.
sort of tech bro, like sort of influential. I'm trying to think of what we like last week. We watched that trigonometry show, and they had
Oh man.
alleged war criminal Eric Prince on there. I don't know if you know about Eric Prince.
No.
Blackwater in Iraq was a private military contractor that everybody's pretty sure did some pretty nasty war crimes. And my opinion is that man should have been tried at the Hague, right? Like, and
Yeah.
so we, it, because like you were saying, because it sort of fizzled out as like this cohesive group. Some of them, some due to infighting, like my friend Ina, she during COVID, she was saying that it was like that it was phrenologists versus anti-vaxxers. Like when all the race science people were like pro-vaccine and were arguing with the anti-vaccine people in the IDW, but those people were like into like literally defenses of measuring people's skulls to determine their intelligence and stuff. So it was like, is this, that was like an inflection point, sort of, when some of those people went anti-vax and some of them didn't, and they sort of that sort of splintered them off. And like I think that also, like, I think people got fucking real bored of listening to Eric Weinstein talk about how smart he is all the time. And I'm not kidding. I think everybody got fucking bored with that guy. That guy is
Yeah.
like not a very interesting character. And you think like Dave Rubin was part of that, but now Dave Rubin is like a partisan hack. He like was any pretense that he's like, moderate or, a liberal who is willing to criticize liberals or any of that pretext is gone. And then not for nothing, that Tenet Media thing happened where it turned out that some of these IDW adjacent people, I don't believe this, but they claim that they got duped by Lauren Chen into taking Russian money. Get the fuck out of here. Even Dave Rubin isn't that stupid. Like I'm saying, like so there's just all kinds of stuff sort of happened to that group of people. And
What
then
was that? What was that last one though?
the Tenet Media thing. Just real quick, and I might maybe I won't be super specific because I'll just give the broad strokes so I don't give anybody bad information. There was like the Russia Today, the state media of the Russian government used like essentially like a front group that was Lauren Chen and her husband called Tenet Media that were paying people, not necessarily telling them what to report on, but paying people to sort of boost content that they thought was like more friendly to like the point of view maybe of the Russian government. So it was like Tim Pool, Benny Johnson,
Yeah.
Dave Rubin. And to be fair, I think maybe Dave Rubin is actually dumb enough that he didn't know what was going on, but his husband is his producer, and I don't think his husband is stupid. So his husband knew what was going on.
Was this the Tim Pool thing where he got paid off? He was getting paid off, and it basically came out that he was getting paid off by
Yeah.
Russia or whatever to
Well, it was a few degrees of separation away so that there was plausible denial. Well, I don't think it's plausible deniability, but they maybe think it's plausible deniability because it isn't just like, hey, comrade, take these Russian rubles. Like, come on. That's like what was that Moose and Squirrel show? Bullwinkle. It's not like the Russians in Bullwinkle came over to those guys, but
So is that how Tim Pool got away with it? Was basically he said like, hey, like I didn't know what was going on.
yeah.
Like, some middleman, like, you
Yeah.
know.
but it
Did
was Lauren
anybody?
Chen.
Oh, so she was the middleman. Did she end up getting in trouble for
Her and
it?
her
Or?
husband ran Tenet Media, and they were taking money. Alleged. This is all alleged, right? We don't know. There's been no, there's been no criminal case around this and whatever. This is all just reporting by it was reported on by journalists. So this is
Yeah.
all like alleged, but they all kind of copped to it. And
It's so crazy the amount of money that like somebody like Tim Pool was making off of that. And it's like some of them have gotten to the point where they're so fucking like Joe Rogan has gotten to the point where he's so rich. But it's I could be wrong about this, but it seems like he's doing that same shit where he's grifting for money or whatever. And it's like, dude, like you made like $200 million in a year or whatever that
yeah, why
amount
not just
was.
take the bag, man? Take the bag
Yeah.
and get the fuck out of here. Like, let somebody else have a chance on the stage. I think that I think it's
People just don't
particularly
want to
like
let it
Joe
go.
Rogan. I think like it would be good for him to take the bag, right? Finish out his contracts, take the bag, and just go somewhere and fucking sip cocktails on a private beach that he owns somewhere.
The thing is when you're at that point, I think you probably think, I'm on top of the world and I can't lose any more money, even though you have an unbelievable. I mean, he's got to have an unbelievable because it's 200 million plus all the other
Right? His
shit.
net worth may very well be $1 billion at this point. And I'm just speculating. I'm just guessing. I haven't looked it up. And like when you look up people's net worth on the internet, that's usually someone else just guessing. But if you
Yeah,
think about all the like he did Fear Factor, he's probably still getting residuals from that. He did all that work with MMA. Like he's probably worth, if not a billion, high hundreds of millions of dollars.
he's in the Jerry Seinfeld, Larry David level of success
Yeah,
at this point. Yeah,
yeah, something
um,
like that. And I just couldn't imagine like I'd still want to do work, but I wouldn't. I'd probably like if
do it from the
somebody was if
Bahamas or something.
like if somehow through the end of the year I made $15 million, I would be absolutely doing something else next year, right? I would absolutely move on to a different project.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't really necessarily. Okay, so it's hard for me to like give my opinion on this because I don't know if he's doing this, but I don't really necessarily have a problem with keeping doing the podcast, even doing what he's doing. But I would probably go full whatever the fuck I wanted to do. And I get a vibe from him that he is definitely kind of panning, or what's the word, like kind of like playing to a certain kind of audience, which is the anti-vax, this part of this whole intellectual dark
Yeah,
web thing. And it's like some of the stuff that he's saying, I'm like, how, like, people have literally shown videos from him. Like I saw one of him talking to Sam Harris like 8 years ago or whatever, and he was saying how um, Sam Harris was saying how like they're going to kick all the immigrants out, or this was back in 2016 when supposedly he was going to do that. And Joe Rogan is like, that's so they can't do that. Like, where are they all going to go? They just want to come live here. And now he's basically kind of gone like full Trump. Like what changed? You know what I mean? Like what changed his
so
politics? And I guess he would probably say coronavirus or something, but it's like,
well it was
dude,
starting
like
maybe starting
coronavirus
be
wasn't that big of a fucking deal. Like he made so much fucking money off of coronavirus. Like why is he fucking, like you say, bitchy and whining, you know?
well it seemed to be starting before that. I don't know, I think having a lot of money changes some people. And
Yeah.
and like you said, it could be to some extent like audience capture, where because I believe that's what happened to Dave Rubin was audience capture. That's why he went like full
Yeah.
hog on what he was doing. And maybe sometimes people just change their minds. Maybe people with a lot of money and privilege during COVID didn't like being told that they couldn't go to the fucking bar or whatever. I don't know if Joe Rogan likes to go to the bar, but I just mean whatever that is. Like,
Yeah.
because like I didn't like not
He
being able
can't
to.
go
I
shoot
didn't.
guns or whatever the fuck he wants to do. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't like not being able to like you know put on like music events during COVID. I didn't like that. That sucked. Like I wasn't a fan of that. But right, but I wasn't coming from a place where nobody ever told me no in my life or in like recent memory. Whereas somebody like Joe Rogan and even maybe somebody like Dave Rubin at that point had so much fucking money that they were not used to anyone telling them nothing. And so they probably got like mad about that in a way that maybe you or I can't understand just because we don't have this level of privilege where nobody ever tells us no to anything.
Well, that's kind of like the problem with it though, is the privilege, the level of privilege that they get. Like I don't I understand that like, you have a lot of money, you have a lot of, but I don't think that you should ever get to the point where like you're so privileged that you just say like, fuck the government or whatever, or like just
Well, fuck the government in a lot of ways, but like it's
yeah,
different. Like,
yeah,
but it's like different. Like, there's ways in which even if like it depends on what level if it's just like your fucking local city council and the county health department just trying to like make sure that fucking everybody's safe, like maybe leave them alone. Right? Because
yeah,
those people are making like $80,000 a year. And during COVID, there was a crisis going on. They didn't know, like it was brand new. Nobody knew what the fuck to do. If you remember, everybody was wiping down surfaces at first because they thought it was like on surfaces and people were leaving their Amazon packages in their backyard or disinfecting them. And then we found out that it probably doesn't spread that way. And like all these people running these county health departments, I'm sorry, they're not out to get you. Did they get shit wrong? Of course they did. Everybody gets shit wrong. Everybody who's ever had a job has made mistakes at work, and that includes the people at the county health department. But are
yeah,
they the fucking deep state? Are they the fucking Illuminati? Are they the jackbooted thugs coming to try to ruin your life? Absolutely not. These people are underpaid, overworked, and underappreciated. And they're doing that work because they want to. Most of those people are, especially at the higher levels, are highly qualified who could be making 3 or 4 times as much money in the private sector. They're not coming after you. And it's fucking crazy that all these people acted like the LA County health director or whatever was trying to like, I don't know, stop them from being happy or whatever. It was fucking stupid. It was annoying.
yeah, and they're going after like people like Fauci, like it's like fucking, like he should be like, I don't even really want to say it, but like, he should be gone, he should be fired or whatever. And it's like,
Well, he
I
is
don't know,
fired. He did
is did
retire.
he retired, he didn't get fired.
Yeah. Like, but he
Yeah.
would have been fired, you know. He probably like no matter who won the election, right? They would have probably replaced him. I mean, he's 80 something year old man too. So like what the
Oh
fuck,
yeah.
man? Yeah. Like
So Trump, yeah.
take the bag, Fauci, take the money and go to some island and sip a cocktail. I don't know. Was he right about everything? No, but nobody was. And the best I can tell, the guy tried to do what he thought was right, and like, good for him.
Yeah, and it just seems sad for Joe Rogan to go on his mighty throne on his podcast and tell millions of people how bad these, like you're saying, these these healthcare work or whatever, like did such a bad job, and he wasn't able to go out and have fun and do what he wants to do. Meanwhile, he still probably made more money during that period because every podcaster kind of did because
Yeah,
everyone was at home just listening to podcasts. Yeah,
my content really picked up during that too. Now, mind you, I
yeah,
was on the other side of the equation than these people, right? I was out there trying to mostly telling. My message during COVID a lot of the time was like, slow down. Everything's probably going to be okay. Please don't panic. Don't freak out. I hope everybody, I hope you're all safe. I hope everybody's, doing what they can. If you go to the store, even if you don't like the mask, wear the fucking mask and be super nice to the people at the fucking store. Like, just go out there and spread as much good vibes as you can when you go outside. Go to the park, go for a bike ride. Like, if you can work from home, work from home. If you're forced to work because you're in the service industry, do what you can to stay safe. And you also, if you're working, try to give the customers a little bit of grace because they're also very stressed out. And that was sort of my message on the whole thing, was like, calm down, like, be cool to people. Let's not all fucking freak out, because the worst thing that anybody could have done would have been to freak out. And a lot of people did freak the fuck out. And it was people like
yeah.
Joe Rogan and the Weinsteins and even like Barry Weiss and fucking, there were all kind of people throwing gas on the fire. And it was like, why are you doing that? Well, I mean, they're doing
Yeah,
it to make money. And on the other side, like, I grew my project grew, and it was when I went full time, was probably the 20 the middle of 2020. I went full time doing it. But it's actually kind of hard to monetize telling everybody to calm the fuck down, right? You're not you're not
exactly.
you're not on a mission, really, right? You're not saving the world. You're telling everybody to chill the fuck out. And it's that's a hard thing to sell to people.
Yeah, like I can tell with you that you're very honest about what you say, and you don't say anything that's like bullshit. And if I say something that's bullshit, you'll call you'll say it, and it's like that's the problem with these people is they're just going off on like fucking rants, not knowing what they're talking about. Like Joe Rogan's, the last person I'd go to or even like a lot of the guests he has on are the last people I'd go to for any type of like medical type of advice.
You know who I go
Uh,
to for medical advice? If I really need medical advice, and I'm fortunate because a lot of people don't have health insurance, I do. I go to the doctor.
yeah,
Now I know
but
a lot of people
that was
don't
kind of like
have
my
I know a lot of people don't have health insurance, and that sucks. And that's a lot. I think that's a big part of the fucking problem, actually, in the United States
yeah,
with people's like lack of willingness to trust medical professionals. Just even other countries that are similar to us, like Canada is pretty similar to America in a lot of ways, but people trust the medical system in Canada. People have their complaints about it, but you don't like people don't forego treatment in Canada because they can't afford it, right? There might be a
yeah,
waiting list or whatever, but like being broke is its own kind of waiting list, right? Like,
yeah. But I mean, but like you were saying, like you probably could have potentially made way more money if you were some sort of kind of outrage podcast. We were like, oh my god, like this is crazy, and like what Joe Rogan was doing, complaining and all that stuff. And that's the problem that I have with these people. The other problem is like it's really kind of hard to prove if what they're saying is lying or not. Like you never really know if what Joe Rogan's saying about or any of these guys, maybe they believe what they're saying. Who knows? You know what I mean? I
so
mean,
that's sort of one of the things that I talk to people like, you know how they all say, oh, you're doing such and such and this and that in bad faith. You hear that over and over and over again. I actually had a
yeah,
debate with somebody about whether or not that fucking matters. I like went on to some third party's channel. Like they were like, oh, we're having a debate about bad faith. You should probably come on here. And then it turned out it was just one other guy. And I was like, hey, if it's your friend, sure. Like whether or not whether your friends mean well and whatnot is important. But if we're talking about a public figure, like giving people information that they're supposed to take action on, I don't give a fuck if they believe it or not. Like, what are you doing and what are the results of what you're doing? And how is it good or bad for the people that are like consuming your content? Like, otherwise, like, because they're not your friend. I know a lot of people probably think Joe Rogan would be their friend. Joe Rogan wouldn't piss on you if you were on fire. Like, these people don't give a fuck about any individual in their audience, and I think a lot of people like sort of they get confused about like whether or not, like, you're watching a TV show. I don't care if sure, it's on Spotify or YouTube or whatever. Joe Rogan, that's a TV show, right? You're not part of the conversation, you're not part of a community. It's a TV show, and that person, they're not your friends and they don't care about you. And I think people get that fucking twisted, and they think that these influencers might care about them or do care what happens to them or want the best for them. I don't think that's true at all.
wait. So is your side actually saying that they have no kind of ethical reason, or they may not have an ethical reason, but they shouldn't have an ethical reason to actually give you honest, like good advice? Like they should just be. Is that what your point is?
My point is, it doesn't matter, right? Like, it doesn't matter,
I think
like
it does. I think it does matter though, because you're feeding a lot of people bullshit, and it's like
well,
millions of
whether
people
you intend
bullshit.
to or not. Does that matter if you're feeding 100 million people bullshit? Does it matter what your intent is?
I think the intent is all that matters. Like I think if Joe Rogan is knowingly
Huh.
lie or Alex Jones is lying to his audience, he's fucking with a lot of people's minds and like getting people to. The thing is with somebody like Alex Jones is I actually tend to believe these people really, all these people believe what they're saying for the most part. I think that they can. I think that I might be naive by that, but I think that for the most part, all these, I get a vibe that Joe Rogan really has become full on like red pilled or whatever. For whatever reason, they've just become red pilled. But if they're not, if Joe Rogan still is like some like bleeding heart liberal who's going up there like saying the opposite of what he thinks because it's making him money, I think that's fucked up. Yeah, because you're like intentionally kind of misleading your audience, which is millions of people, to do things like not take a vaccine and do things that are like kind of like could potentially destroy their lives, right? And you're going after people in the government, like you said, who you really shouldn't be going after. I mean, some of these people are getting like legitimate death threats, like the Sandy Hook people. Like, you don't think that's fucked up if Alex Jones was fucking around about that? That like the Sandy Hook people were getting like death threats from that?
Oh, right. But what I'm saying is the end result, and then we might just not see this the same way, and that's fine. The end result is the people getting death threats. Whether or not Alex Jones believes Sandy Hook was a false flag is sort of irrelevant. Um, what's relevant and what ended up tanking him and costing him all that money was what he did. And he it was basically making calls to action that is for his audience to, you know, harass the parents of the children at Sandy Hook. So whether or not he believes it, I understand that it would be interesting to know, and if we could know for sure, that would be interesting. But for me, you know, maybe you see it differently. I kind of don't care whether or not he believes it, because he's the negative impact he's having on the world. He should at least be seen. Like,
Well, I think that you can make a case. I think I agree with you on the fact that like what he's doing is wrong probably either way, in terms of inciting. I don't know if he's inciting violence, but inciting death threats or whatever. Um, but I think that you can justify it if you really believe something to be true. Like if you really believe that to be, if you really believe it to be true, then you're justified in not so much inciting any type of violence, but speaking the truth. I think you're always okay with speaking the truth if you think it's truth. If you're lying to people, that makes it wrong, I would say.
and
I
the problem here is like, I don't think we're, you know, I don't know how we go about determining what Alex Jones really believes, right?
well no, but the thing is I think that like, well, for one, I don't know too much about this, but I heard on my podcast from another guy saying that Alex Jones actually, supposedly in his trial, they had found stuff that he had admitted to knowing that it was bullshit. So if they're somehow able to find out, like, I mean, I think everything kind of comes down to intent. Like if somebody is intending, and like you said, you never really truly fully know intent, but um, if somebody's intending to, but I mean, either way, I think we agree that it's wrong of him to do what he's doing. But like, let's just say you believe the 9/11 was an inside job or whatever, and you really believe this. You've done your work or whatever, and you go on your podcast and you say, I think 9/11 was an inside job, and here's why. I don't think there's anything wrong if you really believe it, right? There's nothing wrong with that if you really believe that, right?
And there's no real call to action there either. I don't think
Well, what if there is though? What if you're like, you know what, we need to go after like Bush or whoever is
I
involved,
find other reasons. I find other reasons to put that guy in a cell.
and
Um,
but that's my point. Like, I think that if you really believe that Bush should be in a cell, there's nothing wrong with it. But if you don't, I mean, I think your point might be more that like we'll never really truly know intent. So without
right.
knowing intent,
And I
you
think
kind of
that's
just
just
have to
that.
go off of the actions. Yeah.
I think that's just like the, you know, the journalist side of me, I suppose, because I do like write, and there's a story that I've been chasing down, and I just sort of apply that to like the way that I look at, like when the way that I look at whether or not I can put something down like on my blog or whatever, and as a fact, I sort of just look at everything that way. At least like when I'm doing content or when I'm talking about, you know, this stuff like with you, it's your show, but I'm doing content right now, right? Like I'm here as the personality that people see on stream every night, right? I'm not here. I mean, I'm more or less the same guy, but I'm not here as the guy who's about to do a load of laundry after we're done here, right? Like, so like, it's just that, you know, I just feel like I feel like it's really hard to divine someone else's intent. And I always like to make it clear that in your personal life, in your personal business, in your relationships with your friends and family, that it's, you know, intent can be everything, right? Whether somebody says something stupid or whatever, but they meant well and they're a good friend of yours, you just fucking go, oh, wow, they just meant well. They just said something stupid, right? Because it's, you know, it's inconsequential. It doesn't affect the world really. But I think that that's, you know, very, very much different than worrying about the intent of some person who may or may not be a grifter, but who is having like what you and I might agree is a bad impact on society.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, it's kind of like a tough one, but I still feel like there's definitely an ethical problem with somebody like one of these guys coming on their podcast and spreading lies knowingly.
Oh,
And
yeah, and I think that the ethical, and I think that the people who do that probably struggle in some way with that ethical problem, like in their own minds and stuff. But I don't know. I don't know. I would have a hard time going out advocating things I don't believe, but I don't know. I don't know. Money is pretty powerful, man. You dangle enough, you know, even if it's not like so like quid pro quo, right? Like if it's not so well, if you say this X, Y, and Z that you don't agree with, you get, $14 million or whatever. It doesn't really work that way. But, I could see people being pulled in directions where they don't really believe what they're saying or whatever, and they could maybe justify it. Like Alex Jones often tried to justify what he was doing, saying that he was an entertainer, right?
I mean, is that what he was? Is that what he did? I mean, does he not? Is he saying he's an entertainer as opposed to like a journalist? I view him more as being like a journalist or something, right?
Well, he said that. I mean, like that. I mean, we could fill we could fill volumes with the crazy fucking things that Alex Jones has said that contradict the other crazy things that Alex Jones has said, right? Like,
Yeah.
and I'm sure I've done that too. I'm sure I've said things that are contradictory to other things I've said. Everybody does it, right? But yeah, I'm just, I think this is like a thing that reasonable people can totally see differently. And I know a lot of people who, maybe are closer to where you're at on this. And I know people who are closer to where I'm at on this.
Well, I think that I'm trying to like. Yeah. I think that you're right in terms of like probably by the law. Like the law probably just goes like with you did this. This was illegal, so you're gonna get like with Alex Jones. He did something that was illegal. He got charged money. But in terms of just judging somebody by their character, me personally, like Joe Rogan's not really doing anything that's like illegal per se.
Right.
But I can say I kind of get a vibe from this guy that he's doing things in bad faith. Same thing with Tim Pool, same thing with all these guys. Like it's not adding up to me. You know what I mean? It's like, and so I don't know about if I'm sure you know Lex Friedman, but I don't know how much you know about him
Oh
or
my
like,
God. Fucking
yeah,
Lex Frit. Oh God. Lex
he's
Frit. Oh my fuck. Oh my God. He is he like
he's
acts the thing. Oh, he is. I think he's absolutely full of shit. I think he knows what he's doing. Because he like acts like he's like a bright-eyed little boy almost. And the motherfucker's like 40. Right? Like
yeah,
he acts like he just popped out the womb and shit sometimes, dude.
yeah,
He's
like
like,
he's like both him. I think that both him and Eric Weinstein really are like playing that dumbed down, like playing dumb, probably the most out of any of them. Like I think Eric Weinstein's way too smart to believe any of this stuff that
oh,
he's going on with.
I
And
think
then,
Eric Weinstein is nutso. I think he's fucking
well, no, I think he's nutso, but he's nutso in like an extremely intelligent, like kind of maybe autistic kind of way, where he's like he's crazy and he's out there, but like I think he's too smart still, and same with Lex Friedman, to believe in some of these bullshit
so you know about Lex,
conspiracy
right? That
theories. But like he'll go along with them if he's on the Joe. They'll go along with whatever Joe Rogan and that group believes, just because they know they'll be thrown out. And that was one thing I wanted to get to, but we can continue this. But
so
was how Sam Harris has kind
real
of
quick
gotten thrown out
on
of that. Yeah.
Lex. Real quick on Lex, like a lot of his academic CV is bullshit. Like is that he's
Yeah.
some like AI genius and shit. No, he's
I've
not.
heard all this recently. Yeah.
Yeah, no, he's not. And I mean,
Yeah.
that's like, but that's how he had to like. This is how these people sell themselves, right? Like some of these people, like they have, like Eric Weinstein, you had mentioned, he like claims that he like fucking unified like the standard model of physics with
Yeah.
gravity and shit. Like
Yeah.
in his spare time while he was not busy working for Peter Thiel. Like these people make up these wild claims about their scientific like they're like scientific discoveries or their academic, achievements and stuff. And when they start doing that, I'm like, this person is fucking lying. They're full of shit and they know what they're doing because you can't just think that you can't just like believe about yourself that you're an AI genius, right? You're definitely knowingly lying when you say stuff like that if you're not like and well known in the AI industry or whatever.
Yeah. Stuff's coming out about like Lex Friedman. And has been coming out. And honestly, I kind of like I don't hate Lex Friedman. Like even though he may be playing dumb or like playing cute or whatever, playing like a boy or whatever, but like I don't hate him. What's funny is I like listened to his. I think it was his first time on Joe Rogan. I just happened to be like scrolling through Joe Rogan, saw him. He's an AI guy. Listened to him. I could pretty much from that first interview tell. I don't even know that I'm not an AI expert, but I could tell this guy doesn't know as much as he's claiming to know. Like you can just tell by listening. He didn't know that much, and then immediately, like a couple months later, he starts a podcast. That podcast becomes this huge podcast. This happens, as you know, this happens to all of them, where they all go
Right.
from being a nobody going on Joe Rogan. Somehow they get their place on Joe Rogan, and then they just immediately blow up. That happened. That's the whole grift. But and then Joe Rogan is so dumb that he just lets these people like basically dupe him. You know what I mean? But Lex Friedman, to even though I think he's probably bullshitting about his AI tech experience or whatever, like he genuinely seems at least like a nice guy. Like I think he's kind of playing along with the other people, but like you said, he's I don't know. He hasn't really done or said anything that's like really that like
my my
crazy,
thing
right?
about him, my thing about him, dude, he will block you in a second. His subreddit,
I've
dude.
heard that.
Oh
Yeah,
my god, his subreddit, dude.
I've
You
heard
cannot
that.
say shit that's negative about him in there, and he will block you on Twitter. He will block you everywhere. He has a thin fucking skin. Or
And
whoever
it's
runs his social media is just blocking everybody. You never know. Like at a certain point, you don't even know if somebody's running their own social media, right?
yeah, it's so funny too. But it's like he's like one of those guys who's he's always like I'm for freedom of speech, and you guys can if I'm doing something wrong, like I kind of like want to know about it type thing, and then you tell him, and he just blocks you.
Yeah. You
But
know,
yeah, I mean, I don't
it's,
know
it,
if you,
oh, go
yeah,
ahead.
I don't know. I wanted to, if you had something else to say, you can go. But I wanted to see if you notice how Sam Harris seems to have kind of gotten like kicked out of the whole. Like Joe Rogan doesn't have him on anymore. He doesn't really, and I think it's because honestly, I think a lot of it has to do with because he never went anti-vax. That
So,
and
I mean, we covered it on Intellectual Dollar Tree. He did a video basically saying that he doesn't want anything to do with what's left of the IDW. But he
yeah,
could have just done like a 2-minute video about it, but he talked fucking endless, like forever, just for
yeah,
goddamn forever, because that's what he does. And
yeah.
I don't know, if that's why he didn't, go on Rogan anymore or whatever. I don't know that, but I think that there's a way in which those people like sort of wore out their usefulness. I think maybe for somebody like Sam Harris, because Sam Harris has been he was around before they were there. He was one of the probably the like when the IDW first when they first Barry Weiss first wrote that article and made everybody take those awkward pictures in front of the fucking bush. He was probably the most famous of them, except for Joe Rogan. And like he doesn't need them. Um, and so I think it was easy for him to sort of cut ties with those people because he wanted to like maintain some sort of like credibility among like the public intellectual class or what the fuck ever. Or maybe just wanted to keep being invited to cocktail parties in Malibu. I don't know.
I think the main thing with that whole group, and this is true for probably like most of business in general, is like just the politicking that goes on. Like you got to make sure to say the right thing, do the right thing, be friends with the right person, and if you get kicked out of the group, you're done. Like you know what I mean? Like you're not necessarily done. Like Sam Harris isn't done, but like you don't want to get kicked out of that Joe Rogan club. You know what I mean? Like you want to stay in that club, and so I think that that's the big thing is people will say or do whatever to not they'll just kiss the ring. You know what I mean?
I suppose so. But in Sam Harris's case, he sort of kicked himself out of that club when they got too much to be too much for
No,
him.
yeah, that's true. But then I also saw Jordan Peterson. I'm sure Sam Harris has no problem with being out of that club, and he probably just thinks that he has. I've heard him say, like you said, like he thinks they're all like crazy at this point. But
And I'm no fan of Sam Harris. I don't want people to get this twisted. I think Sam Harris is a trust fund baby whose name you would not know if not for his mother's connections in Hollywood. I just want to be really clear about that.
how do you know about the trust fund? And I'm not saying you're
His
wrong. I'm
mother
just saying,
was either a producer or a director of the Golden Girls.
really?
Now that's fine, like whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like it's totally cool. Like, it doesn't, that's not like a dig. It's just that I don't think that he would have gotten where he was or had the opportunities to do the things that he's doing if he ever had to like lift a finger to work ever in his life.
Yeah, I don't know too. I don't know anything about his. I obviously believe you. I do.
Oh, I mean, it's everybody.
I
I'm not breaking news here, right?
yeah, no, I'm sure you can. I'm sure it's easy to find out. But
his brother Dan Harris was on like either was 60 Minutes or 2020 or whatever. I mean that whole family is like in the entertainment industry.
Is that his brother? I don't know if that's his brother.
Yeah, it's his brother.
Are you positive about that?
Yeah, he went on. It was a boring ass interview, but he went on and they talked about it.
Because I feel like they both went on Joe Rogan, and I feel like I remember. I don't
I don't
remember
think
him.
Dan Harris has been on Joe. I could be wrong, but I don't think Dan Harris went on Joe Rogan. I think he's like a legitimate journalist and probably wouldn't go on there
Well,
unless it was like
this was a while ago. I feel like Sam Harris went on with Dan Harris, but I could be
maybe,
mixing up. I could be
maybe,
mixing up the person, but
maybe.
I feel like out of all of them, even though Sam Harris has his problems and he could be like a Beppo baby or whatever, but like I feel like out of all of them, he probably comes off as the most genuine. But I don't know. I know that you do disagree with that, but
Well, he knew when to jump ship on the crazies. Like I'll give him that, I
yeah,
suppose. I don't know though. I don't know. The thing about him is that like he is really he invented the way that they all handle criticism, right? Like he does not like being criticized. He gets real mad. Like he got mad at Noam Chomsky once and published his emails with Noam Chomsky because Noam Chomsky first told him to go away, and Sam Harris kept emailing him, and then Noam Chomsky started arguing with him, basically told him to go fuck himself. And then Sam Harris like published those emails, and he didn't look as good as he thought. He's like, I'm going to show this guy, I'm going to publish this email exchange. Except that the problem is like when you email somebody, right, and they tell you to basically go away, the next thing you do should be to just not email them anymore. Right?
yeah. What was that? What were they arguing about?
At first, it was just stop emailing me. I don't even remember like
Like
the,
he just didn't want any emails from Sam Harris at all.
yeah,
Like
I don't even remember what the meat of the conversation ended up being, but
that was the
and then
disagreement. Just don't email me anymore.
I don't even care. The funny part was that like he couldn't stop emailing him because again, like it might just be that nobody ever told him no, right? And so he couldn't believe that Noam Chomsky was telling him no. Like,
Yeah, but one thing I do give him credit for is that he recently did the same thing with Elon Musk. He like outed Elon Musk and like showed their emails or whatever. And Elon Musk, for like no reason, was just started being a dick to Sam Harris. I don't know if you've seen that at all, but like he'll just be like Sam Harris is a fucking idiot or whatever on X. Like Sam Harris,
yeah.
I mean Sam Harris isn't even on X anymore, but like when he was, or maybe like
Oh, he was the thinnest skin on the entire platform when he was there.
was he?
Yeah. Oh God. I mean, I'm not sure. He might have
Well, that's
blocked more
probably
people
why he's
than
off.
he might have blocked more people than Steven Pinker did, man. Fuck. The other one was when he published the emails that he had with Ezra Klein, and he ended up looking real bad because he was being a jerk. And like at some point, Ezra was just like, I don't want to email with you anymore. Like then he
This
had
is like all really weird to me. It's like I've never really seen this side of him. So I'm obviously I believe you, and I'm not saying you're wrong.
oh
It's just the
the you
sides that
can
I've
you can
seen of him have always been like super like mellow and like not like he doesn't seem angry or anything. He's just kind of.
you can check out their the episode that he did with Ezra Klein and then the one before it. He is
I'm
like
pretty sure I did listen to that one. They were talking about race stuff, right? Like
yeah,
how.
he was talking about platforming in a positive way, Charles Murray. And like the explanation there was that like, hey, Charles Murray is he works for these right-wing think tanks and you're like acting like he doesn't, Ezra was right about like everything in that exchange. It was just all facts about Charles Murray that Sam Harris didn't notice because people were mean to Sam Harris on the internet and people were mean to Charles Murray. So they must be the same actually, because people were mean to me. It must be the same that people were mean to Charles Murray. But like, that's he like gets the thing that he does that I like fault him for, or that I think is the biggest problem is that if people are polite to him and give off like an affect, like that they're intellectuals, then he just thinks they're good, no matter what it is they're doing. And that's dumb because people
That's
can,
Sam Harris.
yeah,
If
you
people are
know,
just polite to him, then
yeah,
he'll just like them.
if they're nice to him, yeah, like that Douglas Murray guy, Douglas Murray is like a fucking ghoul. And he's like, oh, but he's like nice. And it's just like, no, he's just nice to you and has a pocket watch. It's like, you
Yeah.
know, and everybody's got their blind spots and stuff, but I think it's, I don't know. I thought it was funny when he left the IDW, and then Brett like demanded to debate him and shit. I thought that shit was amazing. I was like, fuck yeah, let these people
I
fight.
I don't think they ever did debate though, right? Him and
No,
Brett. Yeah.
no, I
Brett, like Eric obviously comes off as crazy, but Brett also comes off as, I could see Brett being like a serial killer or something. Like he, like I just like I just saw like I'm on like the Red Bar like Facebook group, and so they'll just post like funny shit about these people, and like um they just post. I didn't even watch the whole thing because like it was 3 minutes long, and I didn't want to watch Brett and his wife like arguing for 3 minutes. But have you seen Brett's podcast like with his wife, where like
we used to watch that
the
for that during COVID. We would be up till 4 in the morning watching a fucking Dark Horse.
it was like his wife was like complaining about something online, like she was like mad that like they were getting like hate or something like that. And Brett's like, just how he has like that passive aggressive kind of like, just calm down, like just just there's I know what's funny is Red Bar does his podcast with his wife, but any podcast where it's like do you know like Tom Segura's podcast with his wife, or do you even know
Uh,
Tom Segura?
no, I don't know who that is.
He's a comedian, but any podcast with their wife to me just kind of seems cringe. Like it's, you know what I mean? Like it's like, I don't know. There's just something about it where it's like a husband and a wife talking to each other that just comes off as like dumb. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
maybe. I don't know. I don't watch like I think like the problem that people end up like the potential problem, right, is again it's like one of parasociality, right? Where if you're watching someone like talk to their wife or their significant other or whatever it is, you sort of it like feeds into this sort of that them in a way.
Yeah, in a really weird way too, kind of like you
Yeah,
go,
yeah, and
yeah.
like but you don't know them. They're just a TV show. So,
Well, I mean, some of their private tendencies probably can slip in, you know what I mean? Like their
oh yeah,
natural kind of like way they act around each other, or like maybe somebody's mad, one of them's mad at the other one during the interview, and but yeah, obviously with all these people, it's like they're all being fake, but at the same time, I want to believe that when I see Joe Rogan and those types of people, like I do believe them in the moment. That's the thing, is when I'm watching, I do believe them. I am naive when it comes to like trusting people, but like you're probably right. They're probably just full of shit and like,
or I mean I don't know there's also just a way in which if you tune into my Twitch channel, you're seeing you're viewing a television show of me, right? And I'm like aware that I'm broadcasting, and it's not it's not me in a way.
that's
It's
true. But I kind of feel like with podcasting, I try to be as natural as possible, and I
oh
know that.
I certainly have always known to put on, you know, I uh yeah, I'm playing a character when I'm doing content. Absolutely.
I don't know if you're playing a character now, but like I would not assume that you're playing a character. I would believe. I don't know if you're being natural now, but I would assume that you're being. This is who
Some
you are.
combination. I mean, it's always some combination of it. I
Yeah,
know there's a
yeah,
camera being pointed at me. My studio lights are on. Like,
yeah. You're not going to bring up shit that you don't want people to know about. Yeah, you're not going to
yeah,
talk about bad shit. You're probably going to focus on the good shit. Yeah, but just real quick, two other people, then we can like wrap it up. Like Douglas Murray, I saw. I don't know if you've recently, or if you've heard of Alex O'Connor at all.
I Alex O'Connor, formerly the Cosmic Skeptic. We've been keeping an eye on him ever since we saw him give a softball interview to Peter Boghossian. Um, and it looks like he is sort of trying to lean into that ghoul space in some ways.
Wait, what? What? Who was the
That's
guy?
my take on
What's the
Alex
guy's
O'Connor,
name?
Cosmic Skeptic, that he's sort of trying to lean into that space of all these ghouls right now.
No,
It
but what
feels
was the
like
guy's name that you saw the interview?
Peter
Peter.
Boghossian, and he also gave a softball interview to Doug Murray.
Okay, that's who I was going to bring up, was Douglas Murray. Yeah, that bothers me because Alex. So I don't know who Peter
He seemed
Segosia
like a nice
is.
fucking guy. Like,
Well, no, he is a nice guy and he's really fucking good at debating. But he'll have people on, and he won't like push back at all. It's like, dude,
I think he's leaning in. I think he's leaning into the thing that we're talking about. I think that
I want to hope
that's the
not with him,
but
but
I don't that just if you look at his content, I think he's leaning into this stuff.
No, I see what you're saying, and he's not pushing back on people that like with the Douglas Murray. I don't know if you listened to that one, but
Oh, we
Douglas
ran
Murray
it on,
was
yeah, I ran it on stream. Yeah, we watched the whole thing, I believe.
yeah, he was going off on trans, which is like the easiest thing to go off on is trans. You know what I mean? Anybody can fucking go off on trans, and he wasn't pushing back on it, but he will push back if you watch the right interviews. Like he
Yeah, but
pushes
he'll
back.
push back about fucking religion, dude.
Well, that's his main thing. I mean, it is
Right, but I mean,
philosophy too,
I
but
wasn't. I mean, I know he's young, but like that shit's that fucking. I don't know that fucking ship has sailed, dude. Nobody fucking cares about that anymore, dude.
about
Like
what religion?
like nobody fucking I used to be one of those fucking people, like those atheist people on the internet. I realize now how fucking cringe that was. Like it's totally cool if you want to fucking go to church, fucking you go to church. I fucking if your church is cool, you should invite me. If it's a Catholic church, I just won't take communion and everybody will be happy.
See,
But
I find the religious stuff interesting. Like, I get what you're saying. It is kind of cringe to like. I'm not like an atheist who's like going off on like
well, and
Christians
it's
or
just been
anything, but
played
like,
out, right?
yeah, but I still do. Yeah, you're right, but I still do find it interesting. Like, I've been actually doing some YouTube stuff on like religion, and I do find it interesting more in not so much the debate sense, but more in just kind of like I mean, I just find it interesting, but you're right. I mean, it's without a doubt, it's been played out for forever. But like I just recently listened to one where he had a Mormon guy on, and the Mormon guy was like obviously just out of his depth, and like nothing he said made sense, and he was bringing up the Mormon plates and all this shit, and it's like obviously it's like yeah, Mormonism, isn't real. You know what I mean? It's like there's no debate here. It's like I mean, it's you know what I
But
mean, but it's
what I'm saying about Alex, right, is the conversation, the broader conversation happening in our society right now is happening around the fucking crazy bigoted shit that Douglas Murray is running around saying. And either Alex isn't up to the task or Alex is willing to play nice with those people so that he can get a seat at the table. And I find that to be, I I feel like he's just kind of leaning into the phenomenon we're talking about. And I it's whatever he started YouTubing when he was really young, so
yeah.
so he's I think he's what is he late 20s now maybe.
I mean,
So
dude, he's fucking crushing it, and yeah, in his 20s or whatever. Yeah,
yeah, so like yeah, I just think that you know, I think a lot of those people ended up doing this, right? Like when um like the skeptic movement sort of came to an end and the new atheism sort of came to an end maybe like 2013, 2012, 2013. A lot of those people leaned into the manosphere and like Gamergate stuff, and then out of the manosphere and Gamergate more or less came the IDW, and that's sort of where like people who were talking about religion, that was sort of the next place for them to go if they wanted to continue to grow their audience, because that's where all those fucking McAtheists or whatever went. And it's it is what it is, and it seems like Alex O'Connor is at least flirting with the idea of doing that. And I think
I
it's
mean,
to like his it speaks poorly to his character if that's what he's doing.
yeah, but the thing is, you it sounds like you've watched two where he just kind of like for whatever reason shut down, and I have seen him do that, which is very odd, especially against the trans thing. But like he had Jordan Peterson on with Richard Dawkins, and it was actually, and then he also went on Jordan Peterson's, and he'll debate Jordan Peterson, like he won't back down to people like this, like
But about religion.
about religion. But the thing is you got to understand is I think he's more of a religious guy than a political guy. And you say that religion is played out, and maybe it is, but he has a whole channel like it's millions of views off of basically religion and
Yeah,
philosophy. So I
yeah. I
mean,
Well, and
you're
if he's out of his depth politically, maybe he shouldn't be talking to people like Douglas Murray who are propagandists.
you're right, but he does a pretty good job at like being um I don't know. He does a pretty good job of being polite enough to like I don't know why he didn't push back against Douglas Murray, and I don't know who the other guy is. Peter Boghossian. Who is that
Peter
guy?
Boghossian. Oh, you should check him out. We don't have time, but
Okay,
you should
okay.
check him out. He's another one of those soft, really thin skin. He's one of these guys that likes to debate. He's like 50 and likes to debate 19-year-olds as they leave English
Uh,
class.
like
He's like
like
one of
like
these.
like Ben Shapiro. He'll go to the
Yeah, he's
college
one of these
students.
that like he's just one of these. It's like, dude, fucking that's a 19-year-old. Leave them alone.
Yeah, yeah. And then yeah, that Alex O'Connor definitely did go off on. I was surprised. He actually probably pushed back the most on Sam Harris. He was kind of making fun of him for his views on moral objectivity, um, which I was surprised that he kind of immediately like went in on him. So I don't know if you get a chance, check him out more. I was
Oh,
gonna ask about.
I've consumed enough of his content. Are you in his subreddit? His subreddit is like fucking. Oh my god,
They
that
just
guy's
worship him.
subreddit is full of the kind of people who like will write a 2,000 word comment, and I hate those people the most. It's like you need
Oh
a blog.
God,
You need a
yeah.
blog.
It's a use ChatGPT to like write your like comment for you.
Oh, I don't know. No, I think they're writing it out there. I
No,
think
yeah.
they're. I think but it's Reddit too, and Reddit's full of dudes who think that they're like geniuses and need to like write a fucking book in the comments. So.
The biggest thing that I can't stand with all of this is probably the hero worship that some of these people get. I cannot fucking
Oh,
stand
that's why
any
you should
type of
check out
hero.
Alex's subreddit. The hero
Yeah.
worship in there is it's stunning.
Same with Sam Harris.
His subreddit is mayhem. Actually, I love the Sam Harris
Is it?
subreddit.
From what I've seen, it's all kind of just saying how good he is or whatever.
Oh, I don't know. I haven't. I'll be honest. I've been down like a different rabbit hole, so my time on Reddit has been spent like
Yeah.
elsewhere, and Reddit is figuring that out. So.
Okay. I was gonna ask about Barry Weiss, but I don't know if we have too much time.
Oh,
So
I think she probably lied about why she left the New York Times, and that's what the outgoing CEO of the New York Times said after she left the New York Times. You can check it
oh
out on
yeah.
the Peter Kafka's podcast. If you just look up NY Times CEO Peter Kafka, you can find that, and it's maybe a half an hour in or whatever, because Peter Kafka just asked the guy that was the outgoing CEO straight up whether or not she was being harassed in the Slack and the company Slack, and he was like, well, we couldn't find it.
Yeah. I have like a hard read on her, but from the little that I've heard from her on her
She started that
podcast.
what is that, University of Austin, Texas, where
Yeah.
she at first like hired everybody from the Epstein flight logs. Oh, the meme I made, it
Supposedly
was like if the University of Austin, if the kids at if the faculty was good enough for the kids at Epstein Island, they're good enough for your kids too.
yeah.
Fucking Steven Pinker and shit. My God.
There's so many of these universities, the Jordan Peterson University, hers, you got Andrew Tate's Hustlers.
Yeah,
Uh
I mean, grifter's gonna grift.
yeah. Um so in terms of grifting, what do you think the best way is to grift? Because I mean, I feel like we're living in a society now, online at least, where it's like you almost have to grift online. So if
Yeah,
somebody's, I'm kind of joking, but if somebody's trying to, like, it sounds like you said you made it like it's your job now. So not grifting, but your
I
podcast.
mean, I joke.
Yeah.
I jokingly call myself a grifter, sure, but
Well, no, no,
it's
no.
hard to
I don't
grift
mean grifting.
cynics.
I don't mean grifting. I mean like
No,
if somebody wants to try and make it with a podcast or whatever nowadays, what do you think their best shot is? I
the
would
first
say just
thing,
try and get on Joe Rogan,
yes,
but
I was going to
yeah,
say step one, be famous. But if that doesn't work for you, if that doesn't work for you, it's going to take a long time. You're going to have to build a community, and you're going to have to try different things and see like what works. Like when we started the podcast, I had no idea. Like it was 2015, we started our first podcast. I had no idea that it would that if I was that I had no idea that I was going to be doing it for any income at all, much less for the majority of my income. And then I had it never occurred to me that I'd be making most of that money off of merchandise that I sell related to the thing. So I feel like if people are interested in doing content for a living, build a community around what you're doing and be open to different ways to be different, I guess, different methods to be successful, and different ways to monetize, because if you're going to do it full time, you have to pay your bills, unless like you're independently wealthy. And then if you're independently wealthy, I don't know, maybe stay out of the space so that other people can like, get the eyeballs and earballs. If you're independently wealthy, go live on an island somewhere and have somebody bring you cocktails for the rest of your life.
Yeah, exactly. It's like what you were saying about Joe Rogan, like just being done. It's like there's so many of these famous people who are doing podcasts as just for extra money. They're already millionaires or
Or
whatever, and
maybe
they,
their ego. Maybe they just want. Maybe they're doing it for their ego.
yeah, and maybe some of them are doing it just because they truly enjoy it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a lot of work what I do, and I'm like today I didn't, for example, like it's like any other job, right? At some point, like I'm gonna probably try to cop a nap, but also have to do my laundry after this, and I'm not really, super enthused about doing my show tonight. But it's like going to work. You gotta go to work, and
yeah.
so and that's the other thing is people, I think a lot of people who think they want to do it for a living don't understand that there's going to be days like today. Like I'm fine, like whatever, nothing terrible is happening. But man, would I like to just not do the intellectual dollar tree tonight? I would just based on how I feel at 4 p.m. I know that 3 hours from now, I'm not going to be super enthused about doing my show, and I might be a little short with my co-host, and you know,
See, it's kind of funny to me because I kind of enjoy doing it, and if I had like a co-host or a friend who I was doing it with, I feel like I would enjoy it. But is it because you've been doing it so long? Is that what it is, or do you just not enjoy it to begin with? Or
no, that's not. I mean, it's like any, it's when it becomes an obligation, everything changes,
yeah, as soon as money's involved,
right?
it
And
becomes a business, kind of, right?
yeah, and like it's the hard the we're not talking about Friday when we do conspiracy bingo or Saturday when we do Operation Catterday, right? We're talking about we're talking about the show that basically carries the flag for everything that we're doing, and it that's got the most eyeballs on it and the most people who are going to criticize us if we're if we get things horribly wrong or anything like that, and so it's a little bit more stressful maybe than um watching fucking cat videos and then making fun of people who drink their own urine or something. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah, this
just
one's
a
just like the hard night.
yeah, it's the hard night, and that's fine. I mean, like
Yeah.
whatever.
So
But
if people want to watch you, where can they find you? Because I know it's hard with all these, like we were saying, with all these different platforms, it's hard to
so
find stuff. So what's the
if you
best
want to
place to go?
if you want to find me live, it's twitch.tv/Echoplex Media. Um, we're on a little hiatus from YouTube right now of not of our own choosing, but this is how the cookie crumbles sometimes on YouTube. But we're at Echoplex Media there, and on Blue Sky, I am Plex Dave. You can just type PLEXDAVE on Blue Sky and find me there. And my website is echoplexmedia.com, and you can generally find things there. Though I think it may be time for me to add to my to-do list to do a little refresh on the website, maybe clean things up, and 'cause things might be getting a little chaotic with all the content that's on there. Things might
Are
be a
you,
little harder to find than they should be.
are you not on X anymore?
I am, but I I can give you a link. It's just like it's
No,
not
it's
as easy
fine.
to it's just not as easy to like point people there with my voice because my username is like a lot of consonants. So
Yeah, I was just
that's
wondering
all.
if you've kind of left there. As I know a lot of
No,
people have just left
I
there.
have to be there. I have
Okay,
to be there. Like,
yeah.
but
So it's mainly Twitch, but are these shows also on YouTube and then also like podcast platforms such as Apple Podcasts and
yeah,
Spotify and stuff?
Spotify. Well, it's different, right? Because like not everything is a podcast. Like Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, not podcasts. Those are just live shows. Those are ephemeral. You can catch them on a replay on Twitch for a little while, and then they automatically get deleted and they go away forever.
Oh, so you
Um,
don't re-upload them to the
Absolutely
podcast?
not. Not
Okay.
everything.
So
No.
you pretty much just have to watch it live on Twitch.
If you want to catch Cults and the Satanic Panic, Conspiracy Bingo, or Operation Catterday, yeah.
And this is all on your website. Basically, you can
Uh,
find all this on your
yeah,
website.
the schedules on my website.
Okay. All right. And then lastly, I asked you this last time. I ask it every time, but is there any podcast, music, movies, TV shows, whatever you want to throw out there that you're into to check out?
Oh, like I've been listening, like on the podcasts, I've been listening to Did Nothing Wrong lately. Griff Somke's podcast, pretty good. I'm listening to that lately.
What's that about?
Hmm, about ghouls, people whose names you would be familiar with.
Okay, so same stuff we're talking about.
Sort of, but from like definitely a different kind of format and whatever. More doing like almost like historical research on very recent history, if that makes sense. Definitely a
Yeah,
different way. And I learned stuff on that show a lot. The other thing I've been listening to is Better Offline at Zitron's podcast. It's really good.
better offline. Okay, cool. Yeah, I would definitely recommend Red Bar to you. He can, it's a shock jock type thing,
I'll
but
check it out. I
he's,
see it on I see it on Reddit all the time, so I would have probably ended up checking it out eventually anyway.
yeah, he does a lot of like troll stuff, which I'm into, like like legitimately trying to bring people to their down, but it's more comedy stuff, so you might not be able to do it. But anyways, I know there's a ton of this. There's so much to cover when it comes to this, online, whatever you want to call it, grifter stuff that I was trying to cover everyone. But I think we did the best we could. So thanks for coming on, Dave.
Yep. And everybody, when you get to my website, hit that where it says the Defamation Times and check out the article. It's called "A Dying Cult in an Activist Community in Chaos." It's the best work I've ever done. So please read that.
That's like a new like journalism type
Yep,
paper you
that's an
did.
article about the Scientology and the anti-Scientology community and all the wild, crazy shit happening over there. It's very good.
All right, cool. And what was that on? I mean, what
At my website.
on your website? Okay. All right. Thanks for listening. Bye, guys.